Hey guys, my name's Mate, and in this video I'm going to talk about what actually is SEO and how does it really work. So most business owners I speak to have heard of SEO, but many don't know exactly what it is. Only that someone sold it to them once, took their money, and then they got nothing in return. So in this video I'm going to explain what it is, how it's supposed to work, and what it's meant to actually achieve. So firstly, what is SEO? So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization and basically means optimizing your website so that Google sees it as the most relevant option for a certain keyword or keywords, which it will then show in the number one position for that search result. So Google has an algorithm that determines this, and it's been getting more and more complex as time goes on. So the reason for this is that Google doesn't actually want people manipulating what it shows. But obviously it's quite profitable if you can figure out how to show your website on page one, especially at number one. And so there's a whole industry based around doing exactly that. And so it's a constant back and forth between the two. So what happens is Google sets the rules, SEOs figure out how to get around them and get the websites to show up. Google does an update, which usually slashes a whole bunch of rankings and invalidates all the old techniques. And then SEOs figure out the new way to do it, and it goes on and on back and forth like this. So by this point, we're a few decades into this game and it's getting a bit complex, but I'll cover some of the basics in this video. So how does SEO work? Google looks at certain criteria on your website to determine how relevant it is for a particular keyword, as well as the quality of the content on the website and whether it matches the search intent of the user. Now this is a big one lately. It compares it against all the other websites that it's aware of about this same topic, and it lists them out from what it deems to be the most relevant, which is the number one position one, to the least relevant, which is the one on page 10 or something that nobody ever looks at, for the searcher's keyword. So these days, a big portion of what Google looks at is on the website itself, which will include things like your H1 headline, your meta title, internal links between the pages, the length, and quality of the content on each page, and so on. In the past, backlinks, which are links from other websites pointing to your website, played a major role, but a lot of SEOs abused this, and then Google lowered the relevancy of this. So while they're still relevant, they're not as relevant as they used to be. Google also takes into account some other factors as well, such as social media and how active that is. If your website or brand name is being mentioned somewhere on another website without actually even having a link, they're now aware of that and count that as a backlink in some cases. How long people spend on your website, how new your content is, and how often new content gets posted, the amount of monthly traffic you're actually getting on your website, how many other keywords you rank for, and several other factors which all play a part in how your website ranks. So Google doesn't actually specifically tell you what they look for. So this is all what SEOs have figured out through experience and testing. So how do you get your website to number one? Basically, you need to make sure that your website is more relevant than all of the others for the keyword you want to be number one for. Now, that's easier said than done, and this process can take months, sometimes years if it's a competitive industry, because not only are you dealing with competition who are probably better than you are and have been doing it for longer than you have, you also have to wait on Google to crawl your website, index it, actually show it to see if what you're doing is even working at all before you can improve further or make any adjustments. So obviously all this can build up and it can take a lot of time for this to actually happen. So what do you do if you're just starting out? So a little secret is to not focus on the main keywords. So for example, a main keyword would be lawyer, and instead focus on what's called long tail keywords in the SEO world, which have less searches but also less competition, and you can rank for a bunch of those. So an example of a long tail keyword would be family mediation lawyer in Auckland, as opposed to the keyword lawyer. Because this longer keyword won't have as many searches as the keyword lawyer, but it will be much easier to rank for because less people are going after specifically that keyword. So over time, you'll build up a list of these smaller long tail keywords that you rank for, and you'll be getting some traffic through these keywords and ultimately leads as well. And your website will start to creep up for the main keywords as well. So over time, your traffic will increase and it'll start creeping up from these keywords, and then you'll get more traffic from all these smaller keywords, and then it'll start showing up for the main keywords, and you kind of build like that over time until you're finally ranking for the big keywords. That's how you can be competitive despite being smaller and just starting out. So what actually happens when you are number one? When you finally get your website to page 1 after months and months of work, you'll notice a huge increase in your traffic, and as a result, a lot more leads or sales. The reason for this is that 95% of people never bother going to page 2 and beyond, so all that traffic that never saw your website before is now suddenly clicking on your website and actually going to it. So it's basically like running Google ads with an unlimited budget, except that you don't have to pay for any ads to run, and that the conversion rate of these organic results is actually quite a bit higher than you usually get through Google ads. So basically, once you get to number 1, it's an enormous win in every regard. This is why so many businesses invest tens of thousands of dollars into SEO, because when it's done right, it's extremely rewarding. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.